It's our friends over at Soul Supplier in the UK who are yet again giving us the drop dates for these guys. It's July the 15th, which is way ahead of the game anywhere else in the world. That might be because they have their fingers on the pulse, or it might be because all the other places in the world don't know the drop dates because these shoes have gone missing like a bunch of other shoes in the world right now. And I'll get to that at the end of this video. We keep that kind of chat for the end and we go for the shoes straight off the bat. The Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker channel right out of Tokyo for everyday daily content for you guys. So let's jump into the shoes and then I'll get to that stuff about the shipping, because there was a development today in the shipping that unblocked a little bit, just a little bit of the blockage that has been stopping shoes from getting to places like North America. But we'll get into that in a minute. But first, let's look at these shoes. So I'm going to bring up first the Dunk lows, and basically what we're talking about here is three shoes. Now I looked at each of them. They're all dropping on July the 15th, and I'm thinking they're all identical shoes. There must be something going on here. So you're looking at these Dunks right here, the grey fogs, they're calling these guys, and basically white base, grey on top. And then if I bring up the Jordan 1 lows and you're looking at that and you're thinking, man alive, that is exactly the same as those grey wolves. So the grey fogs, the grey wolves is this shoe, and this, you're like, well, what's going on here? Well, aren't they the identical shoe? And they really do look pretty much identical. White base, grey on top of that, and then you've got a mid that's coming along as well in grey blue, and there is obviously the swoosh on the side of those guys slightly different from the other two, but basically you're thinking, man alive, is this coincidence that three shoes coming out at one time that are basically the same white base, grey top colorway? Is that by chance? Can that happen coincidentally, or is something going on at the Dunk and the Jordan line? So it's a Dunk low, it's a Jordan 1 low, and it's a Jordan 1 mid that we're talking about today. It's three shoes for the price of one video. And what I want to do is I want to go through and show you some of the little similarities between them, and some of the big differences that some shoes have and some shoes don't. And for a good example of that is actually the outsole. So we'll start with the outsoles on the two Jordans and show you those guys first. I don't usually start at the outsole when I'm talking about shoes. I usually start high on more obvious features, but the outsoles are a really easy way to point out what is a difference between the shoes, because it seems like they're identical. And hopefully what I've had up behind me here is the Jordan 1 low outsole, and you can see it's an icy translucent blue. Yes, that's exactly what we want in our outsoles, because that is one of the most beautiful, iconic outsole designs that you can get. It's right up there with gum soles in my opinion. So the icy translucent blue outsole on the Air Jordan 1 lows, and then if I bring up the Air Jordan 1 mids outsole, there's very little between the two. The only thing that'll help you see the difference is probably the background being grey in the lows and then blue in the mids, but the actual outsoles themselves exactly the same in that beautiful icy blue translucent outsole. So you're very, very clear on those two having something similar, and this is the difference with the Dunks. The Dunks, I can't find a better shot than this unfortunately, but basically it's a solid grey outsole. So when we looked at those at the start, when I showed you the three shoes one after the other, I was saying they're pretty much the same shoes. These are the kind of details that help you see the differences between them and see that there are unique elements about each of the individual shoes. And the next easiest place to do that is to go back to that swoosh that we already talked about in two ways, not one. One way is to look at it in terms of colour. So if we look at the mid, you can see this is where the blue part comes in on that mid, and that's why they're calling it the grey blue, and you see the swoosh on the side there in that light blue. Bring up those lows and it's very much a grey swoosh instead of that blue swoosh from the mids, and then back to the Dunks as well, and you see there you've got that grey swoosh on there as well. So very much the Dunks and the Jordan 1 lows swinging together here, but the mids going with that icy blue swoosh on the side. But it's not just that. If we come back to that mid swoosh, you'll see it's actually, if you close right in on it, suede, not leather, which is an interesting little detail that's getting lost in these guys, because a lot of people will be looking at them and thinking just the blue is the thing to look at, but it's actually the materials as well that makes a big difference in that swoosh. And then there's a great shot of the lows that can get right up close to that swoosh, and you get a sense of the quality leathers. Not saying they're not quality leathers, not saying they've not got high quality control on those Jordan 1 lows. I'm just saying it's not made of suede like its mid counterpart. And then of course across to the Dunks as well, and you see that grey swoosh on the side is also in leather. So so it's another point of difference difference. You've got the mids with suede and blue for the swoosh, and then the lows and the dunks with leather and grey on their swooshes. So again, an interesting little point of difference between the shoes. Then a place I kind of like to look at for similarities. It's hard to see when we get to the dunks, but we're talking about the Wings logo, which comes in the mid, up high on the ankle on the mids, around the back on the lows, and then the dunks have a different branding on the back. So if you go to those mids, you'll see it's a white Wings logo imprinted on a grey background, and then jump across to those lows and you see again there exactly the same, a white Wings logo imprinted on a grey background. It's hard to see in this picture here, but take my word for it when I say that on the back of the dunk lows it's also white branding. Of course not Wings logos on there, but on a grey branding panel. So that's one of the biggest similarities between the three shoes there. Another similarity comes up on the tongues, where you see in the case of the Jordans, they've got two jump men, well, a jump man on each one, I should say, and it's I think I'm right in saying it's a grey jump man on a white background. I think it's that way around. Oh God, I hope it isn't the other way around. I'm pretty sure it's a grey, but you know, I shouldn't worry too much about it because I can show you on the green screen here. You can see that the mids and the lows have exactly the same design in their tongues in terms of the colour of the jump man, the colour of the toe, the tongue. But when you go over to the dunks, and again it's very difficult to see in here, you can see they flipped that and reversed it around the other way and have a different sort of take on their position of the branding up there and the colourway of the branding up there. And coming down you know, to the laces, the one place we want to look at is over on the lows. The other two, it's not really worth talking about, the mids and the dunks, but the lows, the Jordan 1 lows, right in the middle of their lacing system, have a classic little hit to their it's unusual, it's not seen on other shoes, and it's right in the middle. You've got that lace stay there that holds the tongue in place, that little loop that the laces run through to hold the tongue in place, and 23 on there, and it's inverted from the branding sort of system style in the other places. So I think I'm right in saying it's white on grey instead of being grey on white. I think the Jumpman is grey on white, and it's white on grey when you get to that 23 down the middle of the lacing system. Another important detail about these shoes that's kind of slipping by is that you put the Jordans together, Jordan 1 lows and the Jordan 1 mids, and they are women's according to what I've read about these shoes. So specific size run for women's and designed for women's, and then the Dunk Low itself, I don't see anything out there that says that these are women's, and I think I'm right in saying it's going to be a full size run, but I haven't seen anything to say either way. And because it doesn't say anything special about being women's, I don't think it's a women's sneaker. Whereas the Dunk, not the Dunk, the Jordan 1 highs, not highs for goodness sake, the Jordan 1 mids and the Jordan 1 lows are both specifically saying that they're women's sneakers out there. So it's a very, very sort of clear element of that shoe. So so that's kind of what I want to get into today, to go through looking at some of those differences, especially so you can look at the shoes instead of seeing them all lined up one after the other and thinking, you know, wow, they're basically identical shoes in slightly different silhouettes, but they're not. There's a few differences in there, like those outsoles, like those swooshes, that really sort of help to sort of define the two shoes, the three shoes, and make them unique and their own shoes without it seeming like they're just three shoes all dropping on the same day on the July the 15th. And about that shipping stuff that I was talking about, I've said it in a few videos recently about how it's basically Chinese shipping that's causing a problem, where they're having problems in their ports, where they're closing down ports with the coronavirus, and that's like gridlocking shipping across the world, because when you've got a huge sort of area of the world's shipping being shut down, it stops other stuff leaving other ports and things like that. And there's a bit of news today about that really brought it home to me, and you might remember this, I don't know, but it was a big news to me. Don't know if it was big news to you guys out there, but a couple of months ago, probably 2 months ago now, there was a story about a ship getting stuck in the Suez Canal in Egypt. Don't know if you remember this. There's the Suez Canal connects the Indian Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea, and it's a huge shipping line, and this ship got wedged across it so no ships could pass either way. That ship got released today. It's taken 2 months and it's held its cargo on it for 2 months while the companies have worked out the insurance and worked out the cost and stuff like that. So this ship has been stuck there with something like 16,000 containers on it, all of them with goods inside, and I'm sure some of them are sneakers. And that's the kind of stuff that's stopping sneakers from getting out there into the world. And I think because of land routes between Asia and Europe, the stuff that's made in Asia can get to Europe, and that's why Sole Supplier and places like that give us a drop date. But then trying to get them across like the Pacific Ocean by ship is not happening as fast as it normally would, and that's why North American drop dates aren't coming as fluidly as they normally would do. So a little update proving my point that I've been saying for a while now, that the shipping lanes are all sort of clogged up and it's stopping us getting our trainers and our sneakers on time, and that's affecting the drop dates across the world. So a good sort of latest update in that sort of department with that Suez Canal ship that's well worth sort of thinking about, and I'm wondering how many of those containers on that ship have got sneakers inside. With that being said, it's time to wrap this one up, finishing up another video for the day. But this one, it's got 3 sneakers in it for the price of 1. Usually I don't do that, usually it's just 1 sneaker per day. So hopefully you appreciate that look at this Jordan 1 mid, Jordan 1 low and Nike Dunk low. 3 great looking sneakers, all in sort of slightly different variants of that grey and white colourway. For now though, it's time to wrap this one up. Thank you guys for checking out the content. I'll just say the same thing that I say at the end of every single video, which is that I do this every single day. And that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.